Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. In this video we'll be finishing off our primos and mid prices series, going through the final line in the forward line with the mid prices. I know we finished off around about the Jai Simpkin area for the forwards on the primo side, so I'll start off with Josh Tracy when we get to that. But yeah, just looking forward to getting out, finishing off this mini series almost, and getting into the bigger content with individual player reviews as well, implementing a little bit of a super coach element, as well as just going through and sort of not giving a video per side on their training update, but probably just a little 1 or 2 part series about that as well, because I know some other content creators have done it, and yeah, I feel like I can give a little bit of an update, etc. around that, especially Sydney, because Sydney is just a tough one to figure out at the moment, given all of their recruits and their new coach. It's kind of hard to figure out, I feel like, even as a Swan supporter. But anyway, let's just get into this video here. So as you can see, we finished off, I believe Jai Simpkin was the last one that we did. Josh Tracy, key forward, I think he takes the next step up, but a key forward, they're just unreliable. You'll see here a high of 112, if we just scroll in here, high of 112, low of 30. These guys have those type of games there where they don't really impact. And if I can just show you this, Josh Tracy, I reckon he's got maybe 3 tons and probably 5 or 6 4 tons in last year, and probably 5 or 6 sub 50 scores. So let's look at the sub 50s, or well, it's actually only looks like only one last year. That's actually a really good consistency, as he was kicking a goal in each game, which just shows how consistent he was. But if you look at the sub 70 scores, you will find, if I just go here, sub 60 scores, you've got 3 sub 60 scores, and then you go to sub 70, and you will find that he does have, in fact, 8 sub 70 scores, which is just not what we're really looking for in that midfield. And that's where he's really going to let down a lot of people. But you will see these ton scores, and it is very goal reliant. Basically, if you take out, I mean, it actually isn't looking at these. He's got 3 goal games with 60 fantasy points. So yeah, it's actually more just marks. It feels marks are still 5, etc. So just trying to think what it is actually here. It looks like it's just kicks, basically, just the disposal counter being that low. But yeah, we just know key forwards don't really impact. Sam Darcy, having said that, Sam Darcy could be an interesting one, given that ruck roll at the Western Bulldogs is always a little bit juicy. We know Tim English did pretty well a couple years ago. They dropped down their contested ball a little bit last year, 5 or 6 ruck contests a game. And Sam Darcy could be very, very interesting if they do lose. If Tim English goes down, I feel like Sam Darcy will be the most intriguing forward prospect, I feel like, as he could average easily 100, 105 if we just go to this. So he's actually a key forward that I actually don't mind too much, as I've just spelled that wrong, haven't I? Have I? Nope, didn't. You can see here when he does take a lot of ruck contests, like he was taking 23, 25, 18% ruck contest, but he just dominated that game. But if you look at these sort of games here, he have games where he just takes the game by the scruff of the neck. It actually looks like when he rucks more, he actually doesn't score that terribly well. But just with the role, as well as him playing his now into year 4 now, he should start to really develop, I think, and build out that frame. So I feel like he's one that could be a sneaky one for us. And I feel like the Western Bulldogs forwards, even though they've lost a couple, especially in this mid-pricer bracket, could be interesting ones. So Sam Darcy definitely is one that is in the frame, I guess, when you have injuries there, is the right wording. Elijah Hollands, I just feel like now with Matt Kennedy left, so it could open up that role a little bit, but we expect Chera to sort of take this half-forward, some CBA role. We do know that Elijah Hollands did do really well in the back half of last year. I know owning him in at least Supercoach. I don't know if I owned him in Elijah Hollins. I don't know if I remember owning him in fantasy perspective, but in Supercoach he definitely was decent enough as that 23rd premium. But as you see here, you can see if we take out this, because that was finals, the last 5 games of the regular season for AFL fantasy purposes, he averaged 86.2, which was pretty good. Not many CBAs, but yeah, you can sort of see that he's had games of CBAs. If we just sort of go for the games there, let me just get rid of all that. You see 4 games for 78.5 when he had above 40% CBAs, and a couple of them were tough matchups. GWS, Port Adelaide, and Gold Coast at Marvel isn't the toughest matchup, but yeah, you can just sort of see a little bit of some tough matchups. But it's interesting, he also has had a injury affected game as well, so if you expect some potential upside there, if you take out the injury game, I wouldn't be surprised if you see him being priced around the 77.5 if you remove the injury a game. So certainly that's a little bit of upside there off of his 74.9, I believe. So definitely some potential upside there. You need to see him take the next step to sort of that 90 range, and I just don't think he has that capability in him with Jagger coming into that midfield. Brad Hill, I think he's slowly winding down. I feel like he's going to play that more, maybe even that more half forward role at the Saints now that they've got Travalia most likely on the wing to partner Darcy Wilson, so he might be that third winger half forward. I don't think he'll be playing out the back with Wangani, Malira, and also Sinclair looking set to be there, as well as Schoenmaker sort of taking up that third tall, it looks like, if not just another distributor down back, so it doesn't feel like Brad Hill's going to play there. So it feels like his time's coming to the end, but yeah, just don't think as a forward he's going to really have a massive bounce back year. Like, indicators are just not suggesting that. Charlie Curnow, 74, we sort of showed it with Josh Hosey and Sam Darcy. Could get back to his best, his Coleman winning best, as I know he definitely was better last in 2023, I swear, than 2024, but we'll just double check that. He was 86.8 in 2023, 73.9 in 2024, so he could get back, but you just don't want key forwards basically in fantasy. Jack Ginnivan, definitely a much better year this year, but small forwards, they generally don't average more than this. We know that Papley was in and around the marker as well. You'll see him in a second here. So Ginnivan, Bolton, Green, Papley, these guys all are like almost all Australian forwards. Small forwards that just don't average much more, I don't feel like, especially because they don't sort of roam as much as Dylan Moore. Bolton, I don't think will average. He probably averages 80, 85 maybe, but I just don't think that's probably the high end of what he's going to average. Whereas you got guys like Philippou, McRae, and guys like that who that 85 is probably on the low end. So that's probably why I wouldn't be selecting Shea Bolton, as that midfield mix is just way too, I guess not powerful, but way too populated at the moment, especially when you have to include that they're probably going to have to play Neil Erasmus in there somewhere, as well as Matt Johnson's been really impressing in preseason. So I just don't think there's a slot for Bolton to really get mass CBAs. And if he's not getting mass CBAs, he'll get the ball more. Like if I just go to Bolton here, I feel like you're going to see a year where he averages 85 off like 15% CBAs, but we'll just check that. 86 off 53. He's actually been in the CBAs a lot more than what I thought. I thought he'd be a little bit less than that. But I just don't see that role necessarily being as open for him at Freo, and I feel like he could probably average almost the same just from a half forward role. So it'll be interesting to see what role he necessarily picks up. But I haven't been. I don't think the reports that I've read out of Freo are too promising for that mega role for him to be a top sort of 6 forward. I feel like he's going to be in that top 10, but not the top 6, so that sort of 7 to 10 range. Toby Green, he just needs that. He could potentially go back into a more midfield role, given the sort of exodus that they've had at the Giants, but I just don't see it necessarily, to be honest with you. So we'll see how that goes, but I just don't see him. I see him playing that half forward role, but maybe they will put him more in the centre because they do have Harvey Thomas, as well as, who else is down there? Darcy Jones and some other guys there that are probably more suited to that small forward role than Toby Green at this point. But yeah, I just don't see it necessarily, to be honest with you. So there's that. Sean Manor, I talked about him a little in preseason. I just don't. Now with more of the options showing up, I just think there's better value options than him. I think he goes to an 85. Like we saw in the back end of the season with his last five. Is that last 386 or last five? Last 585 or 86. I just think that there are more options there that are going to go plus 15, plus 20 as a guaranteed almost, rather than a hopeful out of Sean Manor. Jack McRae is one of those, 71. We've seen it before. I don't even have to show you the stats honestly at this point. I think I've done it enough, but I will just quickly just sort of show them whilst talking about him. He's obviously gone to Saints to get a better role. We saw him 12% CBAs. Even if he gets back to, we are looking at 36% CBAs and he goes 92. Like, I could easily see him having 45% CBAs as a bare minimum. And that looks at somewhere around that 95%. And it just is him just getting around the ball more, simply put. So I just see him being an easy, like, even in 2020 when they were short on quarters, he was still going 90. So that 90 equates to, I think, around a 107 or so, or a 108, which you can see kind of makes sense there. But yeah, I see him easily going, like, we are talking, he is the lowest since his rookie year. And so yeah, I expect him to go somewhere in that sort of 95, 90 range, which is a forward, good enough as a forward, in all honesty. So there's that for him. Jamie Cripps, no. Carl Langford, no. Bailey, no, even though he's been in and around the wing. I just don't see there being much improvement. Switkowski, Lipinski's an interesting one, but I feel like he has been impressing in patches from sort of that half forward range. It hasn't really looked like he's been getting too many CBAs. Papley is probably going to get back to it better. He's had, I think, 2 injury games in that 68. But I just feel like he's going to get back to maybe that low 70s, but that's not impactful. I don't even know if Taylor Adams will be in the side in the side regularly enough. Camarina, does he take the next step in the Brisbane outfit? He is 25 now. Could he take a next step into the midfield role? We'll have to see, but I just think that midfield is way too stacked for them, including the 2 Ashcroft brothers who are on a slight little, tempered back rehab comparative to a lot of others, but they have the time to do it as they've got such a stacked midfield. Zerha, Hayward, Pickett, Stringer, none of these guys are really interesting. None of these guys have a role change, basically, until we get down to... I mean, you could say Rochelle. He could be an interesting one. He's someone that I've always said should be a midfielder, I feel like, or at least playing a lot more midfield. If we go to Rochelle and the times that he's played on ball, I don't know if it's necessarily had the best correlation to point scoring, but he's had 8% CBAs and 23% the year before. If we go to CBAs when he actually played, doesn't look like his scoring necessarily correlated too well with it. If we just go through here and go to the games that he had above sort of 30% CBAs, even in counting the injury, sort of like above 25% or so. And you'll see 78 from 12 games. That's a slight bump from the 64 that he's currently priced at, and that includes an injury game as well as a 43 in there when he was in his rookie year. So if we take out the rookie year, which was a weird year for him, take that out, it's 11 games for an 82. So in the last 2 years when he's played above 25% midfield, he's averaged 82 in 11 games. That's a pretty good jump. I don't expect him to get that midfield role because, again, we're talking about Draper, Curtin, Dawson, who else? Peatling, not coming, but Peatling as well. Even probably Crouch are all going to be ahead of him. Saligo as well. So you got, 5-6 names there that are already ahead of Rochelle. I could see him playing that sort of Tom Papley 15-10% CBA role that we see, sort of a chop out or a change up in there. But that's probably not going to lead to much scoring. But I'm hopeful that he's a guy that over the years transitions into more of a midfielder because I think he has the right skill set for it. Then we go down. Riley Sanders is probably the next guy that we need to just talk about here. As I'm trying to extend this video out a little bit because you know that... What the heck? We know that the forwards the forward mid prices are genuinely just like the 4 guys. Outside of that, there's probably only 2 or 3 names. So just trying to talk about these guys more. But as we see here, you know that in games that he's played in the VFL here in 2024, he averaged 116. That is just bonkers. And we know that the line for the forwards is going to be around that 90 marker or so, or at least we expect that to be, given that there's 4 guys that we expect to be in and around that or above that in Philippou, McRae, Smith and Daniel. So we expect those guys to be in and around that marker. And then you have Dylan Moore and some other guys, maybe a forward gets up around that marker, like a genuine key or someone like that. And that's sort of where the 90 marker lies for the top 6, and you sort of want top 8 as well at best, at worst, which is probably going to be that 88, 87. I expect. You also have Horn Francis there as well that I've completely forgotten. So that probably raises it up almost to top 6 being 91 or so, and top 8 maybe an 89 or 90. But yeah, you can see that if you take out all of the sub games for Riley Sanders here, I think it already goes up like massively. 70.1 in 9 games. And if you take out, just looking at this, if you remove games where he's had sub 30% CBAs, if you remove them, he's up to a 74.5 in 4 games. So yeah, he just needs more midfield time, simply put. He was chucked around and everything. So yeah, I just sort of expect him to do a little bit better this year, given second year in the system. I know that McRae, Bazza Smith and Daniel leaving didn't really have any impact, won't have really any impact on his role. I just sort of expect him to, a full pre-season and everything under his belt, second year, he should be able to increase, hopefully get on better talking terms with Bevo, with the way it sounds. But everyone gets Bevo'd, so yeah, we'll just hope that he doesn't have as many subbed out games, because there's already sort of 7 to 10 points of inbuilt value there. It's just whether he gets that role that we won't really be able to see. Then we will get through the last couple here. Philippou, we saw, I believe in my stats, that it was 106 in the last 4 games that he played on ball, or something to that magnitude, I want to say. But we'll just quickly double check that for you guys. So if you look at, he played 3 games on ball post his return to the AFL around the injuries, and it was a 106.3. If you look at the 3 games that he actually played on ball, it was a 102, and it was a really good grouping as well. It wasn't, if you look here, for those on YouTube, it's 117, 93, 96 scores, and then he had a 119 from a 0% CBAs, where he was actually, I think, just playing around the ball in general. Yeah, you can kind of see it, that it was still, if you look at the heat maps of the other games here of this, you can kind of see that it's still around the ball, it feels like. So I'm really liking the look of this, and I think that they will get rid of the guys like Windhager and guys like Hunter Clark potentially in that midfield mix, and go for the Philippou, which is the future. The guys like Philippou, McRae, Steele, Boxall might go run in there or something like that, but I feel like that will be their sort of midfield mix, rather than the sort of mix of tagger or run with roll guys like the Windhagers and the Clarks, etc. And hopefully they don't put Sinclair in that middle again. But yeah, I just think that he definitely had a lot better run of it here, and I think he learned a lot in this VFL run here that he had. And he's someone that I definitely said in the draft year was going to be someone that I thought could actually do it, just because I felt like he was a strong tackler. So, and you kind of see it in the VFL when he was putting up, probably 8 tackles a game, I would think. So yeah, I just think that he's a guy that will take that next step, and this will be the last year we get him as a forward. So yeah, definitely a guy that I think is pretty much locked in most people's teams, as he's potentially, I'd hazard a guess, 30 points of upside and a keeper potentially. So that's just ultimate value. Then we can just skip down. I don't think anyone really is too interesting. Thilthorpe could be interesting, but I think from memory, and this is me, and I think compared to other maybe Adelaide fans or whatever, I always view Thilthorpe as just a key forward that plays part-time ruck, and I don't know where the value is ringing out for people. But yeah, some people have sort of been talking about it, so I do want to do a little bit of research on why that is. So I'm probably going to have to go into the forums about it, but he definitely came back very, very strong in 2024. If you take out the subbing game, it's 72.6 from 6 games. Taken, and he's been priced at, what is that, 62. So there's 10 points of value there in built. Does he take more of a ruck role, which is definitely what I think people are alluding to? I'd have to look into that more, but yeah, definitely a guy that is one that I think could be going under the radar a little bit from what I've heard from others, but I'd have to definitely do a little bit more research, as it would all come down to, I think, his ruck time. Basically, if he's getting 20-30% in the ruck role, then that could just get him enough hit outs and whatever to get him up to hit outs and around the ball, so numbers like that, tackles and stuff like that, to get him up into consideration. But I don't think with the others around that price tag, like the Philippus and the others that are around that 60 marker, that he should be too highly owned. I can basically just skip through all of these guys as they're the medium or small forwards, and get down to Bailey Smith, and then we'll have Caleb Daniel after it, I think is the last couple. But yeah, Bailey Smith, we know what he's doing. He's playing on ball at Geelong. We know that he had the ACL after a slow season in 2023. So we know that at worst, I feel like he's an 83 guy. At best, he's sort of 105. So meet somewhere in the middle. That's the 90s range that you sort of get. If we look at when he plays 50% CBAs or so, say 40 plus over the last couple of years, and we look at that, and I feel like he's also been bevo just a little bit. But if we look at when he does do that, you'll see that the value is just so there that it's not even funny. If we just go here, like every single game that you're looking at here, it's just mass value. 99.2 from 25 games when he goes plus 40% CBAs, 40% or more CBAs, I should say. That is just mass value. And he's also a really good high scoring winger as well when he just plays out there as well. So yeah, I just think that when you do that and you look at those numbers, you'll see that, he's just almost too good to not own at this point, because that was 99.2, and he's currently priced at a 50, or is it 58? So yeah, just value aplenty there. I'm just going down a little bit more, and you will find, I believe, the last guy that we need to talk about, just going through here quickly and finding no one else that I actually like at all. We're going through all of the lower end key forwards, basically. And then we get down to Caleb Daniel, priced at 50 somehow. I don't know how. I don't know how we could even score that low, other than him being 10 points unders from sub games itself and other things. He's just had a horrific year and just wanted out of that Western Bulldogs side. If we go to the regular season when he wasn't sub, if we go to that, and where is it here, and we've got here and here, you'll see 69 from 7 games, and we said that he's priced at 50. That's already 19 points of upside. We know the North Melbourne halfback role is absolutely juicy. We know that if he does get that role, he's going to do really well. And if we just look at his 2023 numbers, even that, I feel like will show you guys that his value, like there's absolute value there. I can actually just go here and show you 89.9 from that halfback role when he was actually trusted in it. That is 40 points of upside there. There is legitimately a case to say that Caleb Daniel is 50 points of upside and is half his price currently. So I just think he's potential to be the sort of F1, but I feel like he falls into that F2, F3 bracket in the end. I think Bazza Smith is that F1. Potentially Jason Norton-Francis is as well. In that range, but there's just too much value to pass up with Caleb Daniel, and that is why he's 60% owned, because he's just way too much value. And then at this point down here, I don't think there's anyone that I'm necessarily liking too much, to be honest with you, as they're all sort of rookies that have played a couple games, or that sort of half forward role that just doesn't score well, to be honest with you. Yeah, just looking at this, you could have a, and I'll talk about Jack Silvani's playing a little bit down back, I believe, so could be value, but price at 44. This is the type of, if they're switching to down back, I think it's like the Reef McGuinness type price that you want them at, that sort of 300, 350k, rather than the 450k's break even to 44. Just that extra 10 points is just a little bit annoying, because it can really start that cash generation. It feels like just that extra 100k almost, it goes a long way in teams. And then you've got Neil Erasmus here. We know his his waffle form, not his VFL form. It's absolutely huge. When he actually plays in the AFL, his numbers are semi-decent, I would say, when he's not sub. If we just look at that, I feel like his numbers are about plus. He didn't have a non-sub game in 2024, and when he did in 2023, he put up numbers of, let's just go through here, he put up 74.5 in 6 games in 2023. So yeah, that's what his pricing is going slightly off of. His 2023 51.7, and then taking, 18% off that. But still, if you look at that, he's still averaging 74.5 from 6 games when he actually isn't sub. So if he isn't sub, he's probably 35 points of value. But if he is sub, then, which is a massive concern, given that we won't know till an hour before kickoff, and he doesn't have that round 0 game. So it's just a massive concern with him. I feel like comparative to others, and especially because I think they play late on in round 1, but I'm not 100% sure. It just feels like they do regularly play later on. But yeah, he's the last guy that I feel like we have to talk about in terms of the mid-pricer forwards. But anyway, that is the video there, going through the mid-prices in the forward line, going through all of the value. I feel like this is probably it's probably cookie cutter type, almost just like basic, the 4 that you want. And then maybe you go for, instead of another rookie, you go for like a Neil Erasmus if he potentially plays, but it's going to be tough to see him not get that sub role given how stacked that Freo midfield is. And you should probably chuck Matt Johnson and also Shea Bolton ahead of him in that pecking order. So that's already putting 6 names ahead of him. So that's tough to have him. And then you've got other guys around that price, around that sort of 480k or so, or 500ks that could potentially break out, etc. But yeah, it's just, I do like the rookie options in the forward line as well. So you could go with 2 on-field rookies there as well. But anyway, I just feel like this forward line's a very, very cookie cutter in approach of the having at least 4 of the 8 already down pat pretty much. And you're going to have probably another 1 or 2 based on the round 0 performances. So there's only really going to have 2 or so points of difference in the forward line out of most people. But anyway, that is the video. And if you did enjoy it, remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on. And if you're listening on Spotify, give me a follow and a rating over there. And I will see you guys tomorrow for another fantasy video. Bye, guys.